My wife looked me straight in the eye, tossed a pair of fleece pajama pants into her weekend bag, and said, "My work husband and I cuddle and have sleepovers. It's platonic. If you don't get that, that's your problem." That was the sentence that took a sledgehammer to whatever illusion of modern, evolved marriage I'd been pretending we had. We were supposed to be packing for her 40th birthday weekend. Vineyard estate, spa, private chef, the whole midlife victory lap. The good suitcase was open on the bed, the new emerald dress I'd bought her hanging from the closet door, tag still on. On the nightstand, my black metal credit card sat face down next to the printed itinerary like a loaded weapon nobody realized was on the table. She said it so casually she might as well have been commenting on the weather. "Don't make it weird, Todd. You know I crash on Brent's couch sometimes. We cuddle, we fall asleep. It's not sexual. You're being insecure." Side note, since someone's probably reading this into a mic somewhere, if you're listening and haven't hit subscribe yet, do the poor guy narrating this a favor and tap it. Apparently, men in my position live on tiny bits of support. I looked at the suitcase, then at her. "You cuddle," I repeated. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. In my peripheral vision, I noticed the throw blanket from our couch, the blue one, draped over a dining chair. There were 2 coffee mugs on the table, one with a lipstick color Nicole doesn't own, and a faint ring of something that smelled like his stupid protein powder, non-obvious clue number 1 that I'd been ignoring. The mug set we only had 3 of, suddenly down to 2. "You're overreacting," she continued, already scrolling on her phone. "It's just how people are now. You're stuck in your little dad-era mindset. Brent gets it. You and your boundaries are exhausting." The best part? She said that standing 3 feet from the garment bag holding the dress I'd driven 2 hours to pick up because the boutique experience mattered to her. I felt my ears go hot, but the anger didn't explode outward like I always thought it would if something like this happened. It turned inward, dense and heavy, and then settled. A strange, exact calm, like hearing a fire alarm and quietly walking to the breaker box. "If you don't get that, that's your problem," she repeated, finally meeting my eyes with that condescending little smirk she's picked up since TikTok told her she's a high-value woman. I picked up the black metal card, flipped it once between my fingers, and slid it into my wallet. Zipped up her suitcase, handed her the garment bag, careful not to look at her more than I had to. "You're right," I said. Not raised, not shaky, just flat. "It is my problem." She blinked, thrown off that I wasn't delivering the expected jealous monologue. "So, you're fine?" "Totally," I said. "You go enjoy your platonic cuddle party." I kissed her forehead like I was heading out to buy more toothpaste and not rewiring the next chapter of both our lives. Then I grabbed my keys, felt the weight of the black card in my pocket, and walked out of the bedroom. The corkscrew I'd bought to take to the vineyard was still in its little box on the counter, next to the printed schedule with her name on it in curling gold script. Nicole's 40th. I slid the corkscrew into a drawer, folded the schedule in half like a death certificate, and tucked it beneath my arm. "Where are you going?" she called from the bedroom. "Quick errand," I said. "Just making sure everything for your birthday is perfect." She hummed, satisfied, already back to texting. That was the last time she saw me as the guy scrambling to make her big day special. From that moment on, I was something else entirely. The husband who heard your feelings don't matter and decided to stop donating them for free, the man with the metal card and the weekend in his name, the one who wasn't going to yell, he was going to cancel, one line at a time. By 7 a.m. the next morning, I was in the kitchen in yesterday's t-shirt, staring at the itinerary folder like it was an operating table. The house was quiet except for the soft thud of the dryer upstairs. Nicole had thrown in a load before bed so her birthday outfits would be perfectly fluffed. On the island, my phone, a cup of coffee I wasn't really drinking, the folder labeled Nicole 40, and the black metal card. I opened the folder and laid everything out like evidence. Vineyard confirmation, spa schedule, private chef menu, the prepaid deposit receipt with my name in bold next to card holder. I didn't rage, I didn't pace, I just started making calls. "Good morning, Mr. Ellis. How can I assist you?" the vineyard concierge asked, all polished warmth. "I need to cancel the estate booking for this weekend," I said. My voice sounded calm enough that I had a second to be impressed with myself. "All services. Under Todd Ellis." She hesitated. We'd be happy to move your dates or offer credit. No need, I cut in. Please mark everything as no longer needed and email confirmation to the personal address on file. No refunds necessary. Silence, then a slightly more cautious tone. Are you sure, sir? I glanced at my wedding ring, at the faint dent it had left over the years. Very. The black metal card made its soft, distinct clink when I set it down on the granite between calls. Restaurant, spa, chef, car service. One by one, the weekend folded in on itself. I could almost hear the timeline collapsing, like someone closing tabs on a browser they were never going back to. When I logged into our shared Google Calendar, the screen glowed with blocky pink rectangles: vineyard arrival, private tasting, couples massage, birthday dinner. I deleted each event and watched them vanish, leaving blank white space where the celebration of her new decade was supposed to be. Then something else caught my eye, a recurring entry I hadn't noticed before, tagged only to her. Tuesdays, 9 p.m., about once a month. Movie night. B. B as in Brent. The note under one of them said, "Bring blue throw blanket." The same blanket currently living on our couch, smelling faintly of Axe and cheap beer. Evidence, but not the texting screenshot kind she could wiggle out of. Calendar entries don't care about tone. I didn't need to confront her with it. Not yet. Better to let the weekend do the talking. I printed a simple note, one line: reservations canceled. Enjoy the night. It's yours now. Slipped it into the front pocket of the itinerary folder. The folder didn't feel like a celebration anymore. It felt like a case file. Before I left for work, I walked past our bedroom. Nicole was sprawled face down across the bed, one leg half hanging off, blue throw blanket knotted around her ankles. Her phone was charging on the nightstand. Screen dark, but I could see the notification preview from where I stood. Brent, last night was perfect. Same time next month. Non-obvious clue number 2. On her dresser, next to her jewelry stand, his hoodie, the same one I'd seen in Instagram stories tagged at some office trivia night. She'd brought his comfort home like a trophy. I took a picture of the dresser, hoodie and all, not because I needed proof, because I wanted to remember the exact layout of my stupidity before I dismantled it. I slid the black card into my wallet, tucked the itinerary folder under my arm, and walked out, locking the door gently behind me. On the way to the car, I opened our banking app and looked at the joint account. For the first time, the numbers didn't feel like ours. They felt like resources, levers. The funny thing is, Nicole always told me men are obsessed with control. She was about to find out what it looks like when we stop pretending we're not. I didn't see the carnage in person. I wasn't that cruel. Or maybe I was exactly that cruel and just smart enough to give myself plausible deniability. What I know about what happened at the restaurant comes from 3 sources: a very talkative hostess with a soft spot for underappreciated husbands, one of Nicole's friends who drinks too much Prosecco, and the tiny black reservation envelope I asked the maitre d' to keep for me just in case. Nicole apparently made an entrance. That tracks. She came sweeping through the doors in the emerald dress, hair done, heels that cost more than my first car. Her 2 best friends flanked her like a pair of bridesmaids, all laughter and high-pitched excitement. She'd posted a boomerang in the car on the way. "Birthday weekend begins. My man spoils me so much." Tagging me, of course, because what's the point if the audience doesn't see the performance? Inside, the hostess recognized her from the time I'd come in a month earlier to book everything in person, back when I was still the idiot grinning across the table describing how I wanted her face to light up the second she walks in. "Welcome back, Mrs. Ellis," the hostess had said, according to her version. "You're here for the 7 p.m. premium table?" Nicole smiled like the world owed her soft lighting and a window view. "Yep, my husband should be here any minute." That's the part that gets me. The assumption. Of course I'd show. Of course I'd be there with the black metal card and the stupid hard eyes. Of course. They were handed champagne flutes on the house. I'd arranged that back when this was still a romantic gesture, not a setup. They took pictures. Nicole did that thing where she tilts her glass and pouts just enough to show the ring. Then the hostess reappeared, holding the little black envelope where they keep reservation printouts. I know that envelope. I'd seen the stack when I booked the table. "Mrs. Ellis," she said, lowering her voice. "I'm so sorry, but there seems to be a note on your reservation." "A note?" Nicole frowned. "From my husband?" The hostess read from the paper inside. Reservation canceled by cardholder, no longer needed. Not unable to attend, not had to reschedule. No longer needed. According to Nicole's friend, the talkative one, the color drained out of her face so fast it was like watching someone unplugged from a wall. "What do you mean, canceled?" Nicole demanded, her voice creeping up an octave. "He wouldn't cancel. Run the card again." "There is no active payment attached anymore," the hostess said. "The original cardholder voided the authorization." Cardholder. That's what I'd become in that moment. Not husband, not partner, just the person whose name was on the line that mattered. The maitre d' stepped in, offering them a smaller table near the bar. Menus, apologies. People were looking now. It's hard not to stare at three women dressed like they're about to be seated in a movie montage, only to get stuck in the lobby with nowhere to put their coats. Nicole did what she does when cornered, snapped. "Forget it," she barked. "We'll go somewhere that actually wants our business." They didn't. They went home. No one else in town could accommodate a premium last-minute "I'm turning 40, worship me" table on a Friday night. Later, Nicole would message me paragraphs about humiliation and "how could you blindside me like that" and "what's wrong with you?" But that night, she had nothing. No explanation, no man walking in to save the scene, just a line on a piece of paper and a hostess holding a black envelope like a verdict. A week later, when I went back alone, the maitre d' recognized me. He slid that same envelope across the table, the one with my name scribbled on the corner. Inside the printout of the canceled reservation, below the restaurant's notes in small handwriting, the message I'd asked them to add if she showed without me. Informed guest. The cardholder confirmed cancellation personally. Under that, in my handwriting from when I'd stopped by on my way to work the morning after her Platonic cuddle speech, a tiny unchecked box labeled, "Return this to Mr. Ellis if requested." I checked it then. The black metal card paid for my solo steak and a glass of wine. The same table I'd reserved for her sat empty behind me all night. Pressed linen untouched. Non-obvious symbol number 3, that envelope folded once, now sits in the same file as the vineyard schedule, not because I need proof I did it, because every time I look at it, I remember the exact sound my heart made when she said, "If you don't get that, that's your problem." And the silence I chose instead of screaming. If the restaurant humiliation knocked the wind out of Nicole, what happened at her office took the ground out from under her. She liked to talk about her job as if it were a TV show where she was the main character, the charismatic project manager, the fun one, the woman who could hang with the boys and still wear 4-inch heels. Brent was the breakout supporting actor, the work husband who carried her laptop when her back hurt and sent her memes during meetings. I always thought the title was stupid, but I let it slide because arguing made me feel like a jealous teenager, and I convinced myself I was too mature for that. Turns out, maturity looks a lot like letting someone redraw the boundaries around you until you're standing alone in the neighbor's yard. A few days after the non-birthday, she posted a boomerang of her and Brent clinking coffee cups, captioned, "The only man who showed up for me this week, work husband, platonic bestie." I didn't comment, I didn't like it, I just took a screenshot and saved it in the same folder as the hoodie photo and the restaurant envelope. Apparently that's the post that turned a simmer into a boil at her office. The cleaning crew had already been gossiping about those two for months. 2 coffee cups left on the conference room table after late nights. The blue throw blanket migrating from her desk chair to his. Once, the overnight security guard found them both asleep on the break room couch at 2 a.m., shoes off, her head on his chest. He mentioned it to HR in passing more as a liability concern than anything. That note had quietly sat in her file. Then the boomerang went up. Optics. HR loves that word. 2 married coworkers, one loudly bragging about a work husband who shows up for her while tagging her actual husband in the caption. Bad optics. Even worse when some anonymous saint slipped a printed screenshot of that post, along with a timestamp from the security cameras of that same night on the couch under HR's door. I won't lie and say I don't know who that anonymous saint was. The following Monday, Nicole walked into her office to find a small cardboard box on her desk. Inside, a cheap silver bracelet from some mall kiosk brand and a yellow sticky note with a smiley face drawn on it. No signature, just the words, "Last night was unforgettable." Brent walked by as she was holding it. He went pale. I didn't write that, he blurted. She frowned. Then who? Nicole and Brent, a voice called from the doorway. HR rep, neutral smile. Clipboard. Do you both have a minute? The rumor mill at her company doesn't take long to start grinding. By lunch, according to my friend in IT, because yes, I have my own sources, people were whispering over salads about the sleepovers and how awkward that meeting looked. Someone swore they heard the HR rep say the phrase pattern of behavior through the closed door. The bracelet ended up in the break room trash can on top of a pile of takeout containers. Someone fished it out and put it on the corkboard with a push pin and a note. Lost property, non-obvious symbol number 4. That bracelet. A cheap little loop of metal that looked almost exactly like the kind Nicole used to scoff at when we walked past kiosks in the mall. I'm not a teenager, she'd say. If it's not real, what's the point? Funny how the man she'd upgraded me for couldn't even spring for sterling silver. From my desk at my own job, my new job, which she still didn't know about, I got a text from an unknown number. It was the IT friend, sending a photo of the bracelet on that corkboard. Under it, in messy handwriting, someone had added, "Check HR if found." I stared at the picture longer than I should have, thumb resting on the edge of my black metal card in my pocket like it was a worry stone. This wasn't just about catching her anymore. It was about watching the structure she'd built, this life where she was adored at home and worshipped at work, start to sag at every joint. She'd told me cuddling and sleepovers with another man were my problem. I'd quietly decided to become everyone else's problem instead. The first time I heard about the lunch with her friends was through a Venmo notification. Nicole and I still had one small shared account neither of us had bothered to untangle yet. A zombie account that auto-paid for boring stuff like streaming services and lawn care. Every time it pinged, it was a reminder that no matter how much you try to disappear from someone's life, capitalism still likes you married. Monica paid you, girl lunch, I owe you, popped up on my phone. $10. The memo had 3 little champagne emojis and 1 broken heart. Monica is Nicole's longest running friend. Met in college, survived bad bangs, worse boyfriends, and 3 separate pyramid schemes together. If anyone knew the unfiltered version of Nicole, it was her. I didn't ask about the lunch. I didn't need to. 2 days later, Monica called me after what I'm assuming was a generous pour of wine. You know, she started without hello, I always thought you were a little boring. Good to hear from you too, Mon. I put her on speaker and set the phone on the counter next to the chipped champagne flute Nicole insists we keep because it's from our first real New Year's as adults. The chip sits right on the rim, a tiny flaw you only notice when the light hits it. I mean it as a compliment now, she slurred. Boring is stable. People stay. There was a long pause. In the background, I could hear some reality show yelling about a rose ceremony. Is Nicole okay? I asked, an honest question buried in sarcasm. Monica sighed. She's rattled. She thought you'd scream, throw stuff, beg. She kept saying, he's overreacting about Brent, he's being dramatic. But you're not doing anything and it's freaking her out. I let that sit there, enjoying it more than I probably should have. Then Monica added the part that mattered. You know, we all thought you two had crossed a line ages ago, right? Her and Brent? I picked up the chipped flute, running my thumb over the rough edge. Defined crossed. Come on, Todd, she said. She spends the night at his place. They come into brunch together looking like they shared a hangover. She wears his hoodie. She calls him her safe space in front of people. Who does that when they're married, unless there's at least something happening? She told me it was platonic, I said. Monica laughed, ugly and sharp. She also told us you were emotionally unavailable because you don't comment enough on her Instagram stories. That stung more than I expected, not because it was true, but because of how stupid it was. Years together boiled down to emojis and public validation. She really thought we all bought the act, Monica continued, like we didn't notice the way she lights up when he texts or how she checks that blue throw blanket for wrinkles before she posts a photo from his couch. The throw blanket again, that stupid piece of fabric had seen more of my wife's intimacy in the last year than I had. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. Another pause, then softer, because when the check came today, she stared at it like it was a bomb. Said, Todd used to grab these without thinking. She had to pull out her own card, and her hand was shaking. Non-obvious symbol number 5, the check presenter. A plain black folder sliding across the table, suddenly heavier because the usual card holder isn't there to make it disappear. Monica exhaled into the phone. She asked us if we thought she'd actually done anything wrong. Not if it looks bad, but if it was wrong. The way she phrased it, I think she finally realizes we're not her cheerleaders anymore. She wanted a jury, I said. She got a mirror. That's weirdly poetic for you. New hobby? I replied. Self-respect. We hung up soon after. I put the chipped flute back in the cabinet, chip facing inward like it always does. Out of sight, but still there. Nicole had spent years curating a circle that would clap on command. Now that I'd stepped off stage, they were seeing the show from the audience for the first time. The jokes didn't land as well without the loyal husband in the background paying the bar tab. For the first time since this started, I felt something close to, not joy, but alignment, like reality was finally catching up to the story I'd been living in. She wanted to live like a single woman with a backup husband. I'd stopped volunteering for the backup role. Now we were both finding out how many of her relationships needed me as a prop to work. Nicole always assumed access to me was a given, like Wi-Fi or hot water. She didn't think about it, she just used it. When that started to go away, she didn't notice at first. That's the thing about people who treat you like infrastructure. They only see you when something stops working. I'd switched jobs a month before the work husband cuddle speech. A recruiter had reached out. I'd gone through the interviews, signed the offer, all without mentioning a word at home. Not because I was planning an escape back then, but because it felt good to have one part of my life that wasn't content for her group chat. The new job came with a new email, new office, new badge with a different logo. The day after the restaurant fiasco, I flipped the setting on my old work email from forward to Nicole's personal, a system I'd set up years ago so she could send me funny memes when I was too buried to check my phone, to delete all forwards. Then I turned on an automatic reply. Todd Ellis is no longer at this address. Apparently that auto reply is how she found out I'd left the company. According to a mutual coworker, Nicole sent this long multi-paragraph essay to my old work email the following week. Subject line, "We need to talk like adults." I never saw it. She got the auto reply twice. She texted me right after, "Nicole, I tried emailing you. Why is your work saying you're not there?" Nicole, are you quitting your job without telling your wife now? Really? I watched the messages appear on my screen and then disappear behind the blocked notification I'd set up the night before. It's amazing how peaceful a phone looks without constant buzzing. Next, she tried calling my office, except it wasn't my office anymore. "Hi, can I speak to Todd Ellis?" she asked the receptionist. This part I heard verbatim because the receptionist is a friend from my new job and could not wait to tell me how it went down. "I'm sorry, there's no one here by that name," the receptionist replied. "I'm his wife," Nicole insisted, as if that word still unlocked doors. "He works in project management." "No, ma'am," the receptionist said. "We don't have a Todd Ellis on staff." Small, non-obvious evidence number 6. Your name missing from a directory it used to be in. Erasure you can only measure by absence. By the time she swung by my old gym that evening to accidentally bump into me, my membership had already been canceled. The whiteboard, where they write the names of regulars next to their personal bests, had a faint eraser mark where Todd E. once was. She sent a photo of the empty space on the board. "Nicole, what are you doing?" I typed a response and deleted it 3 times before settling on nothing at all. She'd told me my feelings were my problem. Suddenly, the lack of my presence was hers. At home, I'd started a new routine, a different gym near my new office, a coffee shop where nobody knew my marital history, a small jazz bar that took reservations over the phone and wrote Ellis 2 in pencil on a little card that sat in a metal clip on the table. The black metal card still worked just fine there. It paid for drinks, tickets, dinners with coworkers who didn't know the version of me, who spent weekends arguing about emotional labor and Instagram captions. One night, I caught my reflection in the bar's mirror. No wedding ring. A tie I'd bought for myself instead of as part of some coordinated couple's outfit. I looked lighter. Not happy exactly, but unburdened. I thought about the email auto-reply, the receptionist saying, "No one here by that name." Nicole had taken for granted that she could reach me anywhere, work, gym, group chat, calendar, so I did something radical. I made myself somewhere she couldn't. If she wanted to talk, really talk, she'd have to do the one thing she'd avoided from the start: show up at home, alone, without the backup chorus, without the work husband, without the performance. And even then, she'd be walking into a house that no longer ran on the assumptions she'd built her life on. Money was always the one topic Nicole claimed she hated talking about. Not in the "I get anxious about bills" way, in the "details are boring, just tell me if we're rich or poor" way. We'd tried budgets. She called them vibes killers. We tried a shared spreadsheet. She never opened it. She joked to her friends that I was the CFO and she was the talent, which was funny until I realized she actually believed the division of labor ended there. After the cuddle confession, I stopped being CFO of us and started being CFO of me. I opened a separate checking account in my name only, moved my paychecks there, closed the old joint credit card, and paid off the balance. Transferred the remaining joint savings to an account Nicole technically had access to but never logged into, then gradually bled that down to cover the last of our shared obligations. The black metal card got reissued with a different number tied only to my new account. All of this happened in the background while she was busy posting inspirational quotes about choosing yourself at 40. The day reality hit her. I was sitting in my car during lunch, eating a sandwich and listening to a podcast about jazz history. My phone buzzed with a notification. Declined. Attempted charge. 412 Luxury Boutique. Nicole again. 5 minutes later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. "Todd, it's me," she started, voice already sharp with indignation. "My card just got declined. I'm standing here at the register and they're looking at me like I'm a criminal. What did you do?" I didn't listen to the rest right away. Instead, I opened our bank app. The joint account had a balance of $30.14, just enough to keep it technically open. Non-obvious evidence number 7, a nearly empty account you always assumed was overflowing. Later, I heard from a friend who works at the bank that Nicole called in herself. "Hi, I'm trying to understand why my card was declined," she said. "There must be some mistake. My husband handles this stuff." The rep pulled up the account, saw my name as primary, her as former authorized user. The date of change, 2 months earlier, long before the restaurant, long before the vineyard, long before her cuddling confession finally pushed me over. "Ma'am," the rep said carefully, "you were removed as an authorized user several weeks ago." "What? No, that can't be right. I use that card all the time." "I'm only able to share limited information," the rep replied, "but the primary cardholder made the change in person and signed the new terms." I remembered that day clearly, sitting in the bank lobby, signing forms while a TV in the corner played some daytime show about couples who lost the spark. My palm had left a faint print on the pen afterwards. The black metal card had glinted under the fluorescent lights as the banker slid it back to me in a little sleeve. Nicole raised her voice on the call. "So what? I have no money now?" "You have your personal account, ma'am," the rep said, "the one associated with your paycheck." There was a full 5 seconds of silence, the kind where a person realizes, maybe for the first time, that the safety net they assumed was there is actually a tightrope. "Is there a safe deposit box?" Nicole asked, reaching for the next illusion. "Joint assets? He can't just cut me out." The rep put her on hold, checked, came back. "We do have a safe deposit box under Mr. Ellis's name. You're not listed." Non-obvious symbol number 8. The tiny brass key in my desk drawer at the new apartment I'd quietly rented. The box didn't hold stacks of cash, just important documents, a backup of my new job offer, copies of certain photos I wasn't ready to delete yet, more psychological than practical, an anchor that said, "You exist somewhere she doesn't own." Listening to the bank call later, yes, I requested the recording, and yes, that's petty. I could hear the panic tighten in Nicole's throat. "So he just, what? Decided I don't matter?" The rep, to her credit, stayed neutral. "I can't speak to motivations, ma'am. Only account status." When she hung up, she texted me from yet another new number. "Nicole, you are financially abusing me." "Nicole, this is insane. I gave you the best years of my life." "Nicole, we need to talk about this like adults." I typed back exactly once. "Me, you told me my feelings were my problem. I solved my problem." Then I muted the thread. She had wanted a work husband who shows up for her and a real husband who paid for the stage. Now she had a work husband under HR review and a real husband who finally realized he could pick up his wallet and walk off stage. The thing that finally cracked Nicole's denial wasn't the empty calendar, the canceled reservations, or the bank telling her she was just a former authorized user. It was a photo she wasn't supposed to see, posted by someone who had no idea they were detonating a landmine. A coworker of mine, new job, new world, snapped it at a charity gala. Black tie, bad jazz standards, the usual silent auction where middle-aged executives compete to out-generous each other in public. I hadn't wanted to go. My boss insisted. Networking, he said. Plus, you might actually have fun. I rented a tux that didn't smell like mothballs, shined my shoes, and for the first time in a long time, got dressed without wondering if Nicole would approve of the tie. On my left lapel, the event organizers pinned a small silver logo shaped like grapevines. The sponsor was a vineyard that had donated cases for the evening. The same vineyard I'd canceled for her birthday. Irony has a sense of humor I can respect. I didn't go alone. There's a woman in my new office, Emily, who laughs at my dry jokes and brings in homemade cookies on Mondays because she likes having something to look forward to. When the gala invite said +1, I stared at the blank line for a full minute before asking if she wanted to come as friends. She said yes without hesitation. No games, no grand declarations. Just sure, sounds fun. We ended up at a small table near the band. At some point between the second course and the charity auction, Emily rested her hand lightly on my chest as she leaned in to say something about the sax player murdering a solo. Someone across the table thought it was cute and snapped a picture. Later that night, they posted it with the caption about "Great night for a good cause." I didn't think much of it. It wasn't a couple's photo. It was just a moment. Nicole, doom-scrolling at 1 a.m., according to the timestamp, saw it when a mutual friend liked it. In the picture, I'm mid-laugh, head tilted back slightly, no forced smile for social media, no tight jaw from swallowing annoyance. Just a guy listening to music next to a woman who doesn't treat him like a backup generator. Emily's hand is on my chest, fingers resting right next to the silver vineyard pin, non-obvious symbol number 9. That pin, proof that the wine I'd meant to pour for my wife ended up underwriting a fundraiser and a night where I remembered what it felt like to exist without being graded. Nicole screenshotted the photo and for once didn't text me about it. Instead, she sent it to Monica with a single line. Nicole, is this a joke? Monica, who by then had lost her patience for dramatics, replied, Monica, you literally told him you have sleepovers with another man. That's how I know about that exchange. Monica showed me later, half apologetic, half impressed. Nicole went quiet online for a few days after that. No stories, no memes, no hashtagged quotes about empowerment. The algorithm probably thought she died. When she finally resurfaced, it was with a selfie in her car, makeup perfect, eyes puffy in a way she tried to hide with filters. Caption, sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. I didn't like her comment. I just noticed the absence of her ring. At the gala, when I'd gone to the bar for another drink, I caught my reflection in a mirrored column. For a second, I almost didn't recognize myself without the familiar weight on my left hand. I turned my wrist, half expecting to see tan lines. There were none. It was like my skin had rewritten history while I wasn't looking. Emily came up behind me, nudged my shoulder. You okay? Yeah, I said. Just realizing I feel more like myself in a room full of strangers than I have at home in years. She didn't launch into a TED Talk, she just nodded. That's usually a sign the room full of strangers is actually your life now. We clinked glasses. The black metal card paid for the Uber home. Somewhere across town, my wife was zooming in on a photo of that vineyard pin, finally seeing what I'd been trying to tell her without words. I didn't ruin her birthday weekend. I reassigned it to a cause, to a different table, to a version of me that didn't exist solely to be backdrop to hers. About a year after the aborted birthday disaster, I ended up back at that same restaurant for a work thing, different context, same dim lighting, same smell of butter and roasted garlic, same heavy chairs that make everyone sit up straighter. Our group was in a private room, so I didn't see her come in. I heard about it later from the hostess, who apparently has a side gig updating me on the universe's sense of symmetry. It was a Thursday, not her actual birthday anymore, just a regular evening she must have decided to dress up and try to reclaim. She wore the emerald dress again, the one that never got its big debut. No entourage this time. No friends flanking her for Instagram content. Just Nicole, alone, clutching a small clutch bag like it was a flotation device. Table for one, she said to the hostess, voice steady in that I do this all the time. I am an independent woman who is definitely not about to cry in your bathroom way. The hostess recognized her. Of course she did. There aren't that many women who storm out after a canceled premium reservation declaring they'll never set foot in this place again. Would you like to sit by the window? The hostess asked kindly. No, Nicole said. Same section as last time. Last time she had stormed through that section, cheeks flushed with anger. This time she walked slowly, eyes tracing the path like she was visiting a crime scene. She ordered the wine I used to pick automatically whenever we went out, the one I knew she liked because she didn't get a headache after. When the server asked if someone would be joining her, she smiled too brightly and said, No guy tonight, just me. Non-obvious symbol number 10, the empty chair opposite her, napkin folded neatly, glass polished and untouched. Halfway through her meal, the server, a different one than the year before, but briefed enough to know better than to pretend ignorance, approached with the check in the familiar black folder. You were here once before, right? The server asked gently. Around your birthday? Nicole's fork paused midway to her mouth. Yeah, my husband, well, ex-husband. The server nodded. I thought so. We have really good memories for faces. She hesitated, then added, That night your reservation had a note from the card holder. I just wanted you to know we always felt bad about how that played out. Nicole reached for the folder like it might bite. When she opened it, the total wasn't the shocking part. She could afford her own dinner. That was never the point. Tucked into the back pocket, behind the receipt, was a photocopy of the old reservation slip. The maitre d' had kept it on file for training, or so he'd told me. The phrase was still there in plain, unforgiving ink. Canceled by card holder, no longer needed. She stared at those words for so long the server started to worry. I can take that if you'd like, the server offered. We shouldn't have given it to you, honestly. No, Nicole said, voice scraping. I need to see it. Across town, I was sipping bad coffee from a caterer's urn, trying to stay awake through a presentation about Q3 performance. While some VP droned on about KPIs, my phone buzzed with a single notification. Unknown number. Do you ever think about what we were? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Nicole, sitting in that restaurant alone, had finally been given a mirror I hadn't been able to hand her myself. Not through fights, not through lectures, not through carefully worded emails she never read. Just a phrase on a piece of paper signed by reality, no longer needed. It sounded brutal, even to me, but there's a difference between not being needed and not being wanted. The truth was uglier and simpler. I had needed her for a long time. As a story, as an identity, as a justification for being the kind of man who puts everyone else first. She'd cured me of that. Now, sitting at that table for one, she was finally meeting the version of herself who lived without a built-in audience and an unlimited cover charge. And somewhere between the appetizer and the dessert, she realized the only person who could pick up that check now was the one staring back at her from the reflection in the restaurant window. I didn't plan the sidewalk encounter. I'd love to say I orchestrated it down to the minute, but life occasionally writes its own punchlines. It was a Saturday night, the air just cool enough to make breath visible. The jazz bar had emptied in waves. Couples, groups, the occasional solitary guy who came just for the music. Emily and I lingered, finishing our drinks, talking about nothing in particular. When we finally stepped outside, the street was buzzing. Restaurant patios, bar doors opening and closing, laughter echoing into the kind of night that makes cities feel like they're breathing. I saw her before she saw me. Nicole standing on the sidewalk across the street, emerald dress under a long coat, heels dangling from one hand, the other hand wrapped around her phone like she was trying to squeeze comfort out of it, makeup smudged in that way that says someone tried to fix it with a napkin and made it worse. For a second, time did that weird, stretchy thing. I remembered a younger version of her, in a different dress, running barefoot down a dorm hallway because her shoes hurt, laughing as I carried them. Back then, her vulnerability felt like an invitation, not a trap. Emily touched my arm. You okay? Yeah, I said, eyes still on Nicole. Just ghost from another season. We started walking toward the corner to catch a cab. As we crossed the street, Nicole's head lifted. Her gaze snagged on me like a hook. Our eyes met in the middle of the crosswalk. In that instant, every object I'd quietly reassigned in the last year lined up in my head like a chain of dominoes. The black metal card in my wallet that no longer paid for her nights out. The vineyard pin still on my coat from a gala she hadn't attended. The restaurant envelope folded in my desk drawer, proof of a canceled celebration. The safe deposit box key resting in my pocket, cold and small, connecting me to a life she'd never bothered to imagine for me. Emily, oblivious to the hurricane happening in that eye contact, laughed at something and slipped her hand through my arm. She leaned into me in a way that said comfort, not performance. Nicole's face did something I can't fully describe. Not just sadness. Not just anger, it was the look of someone watching a movie where they suddenly realize they're no longer in the cast. She took a step forward, then stopped like an invisible leash yanked her back. No right to cross, no script to use, no pre-approved line about talking like adults. I didn't stop either, didn't change direction, didn't do the whole dramatic we need closure thing people on TV like to act out. The cab pulled up just as we reached the curb. I opened the door for Emily. She slid in, smoothing her dress. I hesitated, hand still on the frame, and looked back one last time. Nicole was on the curb now, coat half open, emerald fabric catching the streetlight, bare feet on cold concrete, the black restaurant card in her hand like a prop she didn't know how to use. Our eyes met again. For a heartbeat, the noise of the city dropped out. I wanted to say something profound. This didn't have to happen. Or, you did this to yourself. Or maybe even, I loved you. Instead, the only words that came to mind were the ones she'd given me at the start. If you don't get that, that's your problem. I didn't say them out loud. I just let them sit there, between us, like a ghost only I could hear. Then I got into the cab. The door shut with a soft final click. As we pulled away, I saw her sink down onto the curb, emerald dress pooling around her like spilled ink, heels still in her hand. She put her head in her hands, and even from that distance, I could see her shoulders shake. She looked devastated, and I'd be lying if I said that didn't land somewhere in my chest. I'm not a sociopath. I loved that woman once. Maybe parts of me still do, in a way that's more about the kid I was back then than the person she is now. Here's the part that probably makes me a bad guy in some people's eyes. A small, quiet corner of me felt satisfied, not gleeful, not jumping up and down joyous, just settled. She'd built a life where my love was optional, but my resources were mandatory, where work husband was a cute joke and my discomfort was a character flaw. I didn't scream, I didn't cheat back, I didn't burn her stuff on the lawn or key anyone's car. I just moved the things, the card, the reservations, the accounts, my body out of the house, my name out of directories, my presence out of spaces where she assumed it would always be waiting on standby. Call it revenge. Call it self-respect, call it a long, slow magic trick where the assistant disappears and this time doesn't come back when the curtain drops. I'm not proud of every step. I weaponize access and invisibility in ways that, if the genders were reversed, would have Twitter threads written about them. I made sure HR saw things. I let her social circle turn on her instead of stepping in. Morally pure, not even close. But sitting in that cab, Emily's head resting lightly on my shoulder as the city slid by in streaks of light, I realized something I hadn't felt in years. She wasn't the main character in my story anymore. I was. Whether that makes me a hero, a villain, or just a guy who finally believed his own worth, that's for some stranger on the internet to decide. I'm just the man who heard his wife say, "My work husband and I cuddle and have sleepovers. It's platonic. If you don't get that, that's your problem," and decided to stop making her comfort his life's work. In the end, I didn't need to punish her. I just needed to stop funding the show,